Welcome to AMS on the Air. I'm Jeff Rosenfeld.
I am Irene Sands.
And I'm Dakota Smith. We're ready to podcast about all things weather, water, and climate.
We were not prepared economically to face this. We were not ready. You know one thing I've learned in all of this? That you have to respect the dignity of each person.
In this episode of AMS on the Air, BAM's senior editor, Chris Cappella, interviewed Monzón, who is the first and probably most influential female meteorologist from Latin America. She's based in Puerto Rico and is a fellow of the American Meteorological Society. And as a broadcaster, she's won awards from the AMS, both for her science reporting as well as for her mentoring. She won the AMS Joanne Simpson Mentorship Award recently and has won a silver medal from the U.S. Department of Commerce. She's on the faculty of the Natural Sciences Department of the University of Puerto Rico. In addition to being such a distinguished broadcaster, she's just an all-around great communicator of science and a wonderful person.
And Jeff, she also this year in 2019 won the award for broadcast meteorologist, which it was given to Ada for long-term commitment to informing, educating, and inspiring resiliency in the people of Puerto Rico before, during, and after extreme events like Hurricane Maria. I mean, she's been doing this for many, many years, and she has her own museum, not her museum, but a science museum in Puerto Rico. It's called Eco Exploratorio, and it's a science museum full of anything that has to do with science, water, weather, climate. I've heard it's pretty awesome, and she keeps doing more and more every day, every year for not only the current generation, but also for the future generation of scientists.
The interview that we're featuring today was actually recorded about a year ago at the AMS 2018 annual meeting, and it focuses on Hurricane Maria and its impacts on Puerto Rico and some of the experiences that she went through. A lot of the lessons that were learned can be applied to any hurricane or really any natural disaster. I certainly learned a lot, so we hope you enjoy our interview between Ada Monzón and Chris Cappella.
You know what the storm is going to do. And you're talking to the people who are neighbors and friends. That had to be super hard. How do you keep your composure on air? I know you have a job to do, but you have a family there too. It hits home. How does that work?
It's very difficult to draw the line between the meteorologist and the friend, the daughter, the wife, the mother, the cousin. It's very difficult because everybody is looking at you, expecting some answers, expecting from you to tell them what to do next with the information they have been receiving from me or from other sources, because everybody has access to the internet or the Weather Channel, CNN. We're being given the same information. We all say it in a different way, in a particular way, in our own way. And some people might think, well, maybe this is not such a threat. I remember on Saturday night, there was this minor movement of the eye, like 10 miles northward. And the forecast kind of was displaced a little bit to the right. I remember watching some people in the media saying, and even some important people in the media saying, wow, this is it, we're saved. This is not going to happen. So that kind of conflicting information, unfortunately, when you are in the path or in the future path of a storm, can be very dangerous because nobody understands what 10 miles or 5 miles or 20 miles mean. And that may be very dangerous to anyone that is listening in one person saying, listen, you have to prepare. This is not looking good. And this system is going to enter into very warm waters when it goes into the Caribbean. There's a difference with Irma. Irma went north of the islands, and the cold surge of water is north of the islands. But Maria, at that time, the tropicals, it was a tropical depression 15, and then tropical storm. I was saying, listen, this is where the deep water. I put the ocean content, the ocean heat content graphics. This is where it's going to rapidly intensify because we haven't had any system coming through that area for the hurricane season. So it's got all the ingredients to become an intense system. But then we got other people saying, oh no, it's going to maybe it's going to miss the islands. So all these kinds of things happens in the communication, and your family is listening to all of them, because my mother would call me and she said, Ada, but in this station they're saying this and you're saying something different.
So you carried a consistent, did you stick with a consistent message knowing what you had seen with the warm water and the storm's potential?
Definitely. And especially because the European model had been working so well,
Yes,
and
well.
it worked so perfectly for us during the threat of Hurricane Irma. And when you saw the same kind of panorama or scenario for Puerto Rico, it was consistent. It was consistent. And then even the GFS, which was for Irma, it was a little bit off. But with Maria, they were almost perfect. The only difference was the intensity. But in terms of trajectory, it was continuously putting it either through the southeast coast or the south coast or the east coast. Nothing beyond 50 miles away from the island from day one. So to me, that was very important because it got to a point that there was no point of return. We are going to get hit. And that's when I really reinforced the fact that we have to prepare. And I think the message got out, but not only because of me, because I am part of a team. I am part of the National Hurricane Center, the Weather Service, the Emergency Management, the governor. We are a group of people that in our hands is the safety of all the people. And I think that we all worked very well together. That really helped because we all had a consistent message. Plus, the urgency or the sense of urgency that at least I felt made me more efficient or more I may not know the right word, but focus on the message that I wanted to deliver.
When it became a Category 5, and you read the bulletins, you read the information from the recon reports that it had intensified and it got that strong, and then they said it. Did that change how you addressed your audience?
Let me tell you, this is something very interesting because it really didn't surprise me. You know why? Because when Hurricane Irma became a Category 5, but not a Category 5, a super Category 5 with 185 mile an hour, that's when I really got the first surprise of the season. Like, we are getting these kinds of hurricanes near our latitude. That really bothered me with Irma. But so Irma actually paved the path for Maria. Although they were in different locations, it paved the path in terms of the message. So when we were saying 185 mile an hour for Irma, and now we're talking about 175 mile an hour, It was incredible that we were going through the same thing again, but it didn't surprise me at all because I knew that with deep warm waters that were where Maria was heading, it was going to happen again. So in that case, if it would have been a lonely case, as compared to having a previous experience, then it would have been more difficult. But people responded late, but responded. And the main problem, I think, on the response or action of the people was the fact that we were not prepared economically to face this. We were not ready.
Did the damage surprise you? The extent of it.
The extent, not the damage in terms of what I expected, but having the entire island it was like a ghost town, and it was from corner to corner. That hadn't happened before because all the other hurricanes either have moved through the southeast or even east through west, but it was a category 3. But never I would have imagined that a category 4 or 5 hurricane in Puerto Rico would have done so much damage.
Knowing what you had seen from Irma before Maria hit, did that change how you talk to your viewers based on the other islands that had direct hits?
Oh, yes, because it made a reference. It made a reference. But we had a problem. The problem is that our electrical system, the power generation, transmission in Puerto Rico is very weak. And we've known this for many years. And we knew that we didn't have the resources to make it better or to make it stronger. And this system was going to go away because of Irma, if Irma would have come closer. Irma stayed 30 miles north of Culebra, 45 miles north of San Juan. Still, at this distance, it created serious problems with the electrical power system, mainly in the northeast part of the island. For example, in my house, I live south of San Juan. I didn't get the power back until Monday before Maria. So I only had 2 days to do anything in terms of power. I got an electric generator, but it had been working nonstop for 2 weeks. And these electric generators need maintenance, need filters, need valves. They need all kinds of things for them to work for long periods of time. So we thought with Irma we could manage, but with Maria I was really scared because for example, all of us have special circumstances, right, in our families. My mother is almost all the time in bed, and my cousins are sick, and they had to be with me because I have to content my problems, right? Because I was working. So you have to consider all these factors in all the decisions and all the things that are going in your head while maintaining the right attitude and being calm for the benefit of the rest of the island. But I had to find a way to solve it. When we were facing Maria, I was really scared that we were not going to get the fuel for the generators, and my mother would have suffered more. So Maria happened, everything collapsed. There was no way to get fuel through the ports because the ports were damaged. The lines to get even any kind of fuel, either gasoline or diesel, it was 8 hours, 11 hours. People were doing lines just to get fuel. Why? Because they only allow you a certain amount of dollars, $10 or $15, so that they could stretch it and everybody could get the fuel. Everything that you could buy in a store, it was gone. Water was gone. There was no water anywhere. You couldn't, even in the large stores like Costco or Sam's Club or anything like that, there was no water.
At some point, heading toward Maria, you've got to take care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance that with having this extremely important job you have?
Well, let me tell you, because of Irma, at least I had done things to prepare. So I had many things that I already had. For example, at the house, my house is hurricane proof, and that is very important. If you have to help yourself first, and then you help others, because if not, then you will not be concentrated or focused on what you're gonna do when the hurricane hit. What you had to do. So I, because of Irma, we already had prepared many things, and I had plenty of water. I had many things. It came Maria, and I just had to do very little. And that Saturday and Sunday, what I did is I went back to the stores. I put more water, and we requested our friends in Orlando to get us the filters for the electric generators, because that really scared me, the fact that I was not going to have power in my house. And let me tell you, we just got back the power on November 15th, and there were just minor issues. My house is safe. I just had little water damage, and my family is fine. And that's how it's supposed to be. If I am fine, if I take time to prepare myself, I'm all available to do whatever is need to be done. I need to sleep in the station. I slept in the station. I didn't leave the station for 3 days. And I even made a Facebook Live when I was leaving my house with my luggage and everything, just to make a point. Because not many people think about the fact that you are going to leave your family for their safety. And you know what? People appreciated that a lot. And, to my surprise, that was a very... many people watched that Facebook Live, and a lot of people that I have seen, across the island. So when I saw you that you were leaving your house, I was like, it's really coming. So you never know the things that you do that make an impact. If it serves well to another person, well, so be it. I've seen through the years how much power that social media has. Facebook and Twitter, and now Instagram and Snapchat as well. But Facebook and Twitter have power. They have the power because everybody can access the phone, and they can see it from anywhere. I had people that saw the Facebook Lives. They were in Russia, in Spain, in Australia. The other day, someone told me they see anywhere in the world. We have had so many people that have left the island before Irma and Maria. So those people were informed of what was happening in Puerto Rico. And now the social media has become the number one information resource for many people. So doing those Facebook Lives and Twitter Lives every 3 hours and explaining what the bulletin of the Hurricane Center, what does that mean that I have 175 miles an hour in my house? Because it's like I was doing the analogy yesterday. You go to a doctor, and then the doctor tells you, well, you're very sick. You have this illness. And you say, okay, and what should I do? Because you don't want to know about the fact about the sickness, how it developed and all that. You need to know what are you going to do next. And I think that in meteorology, we're kind of the doctors of the weather in that sense, because we have to show the empathy. You have to show that you're there for them. It's more like a personal relation. And when you understand that your job, it doesn't matter in which area of the meteorology you specialize. Either you are in the modeling field, or either you are at the hurricane center, you're in the operational forecasting, or the academia, or in broadcasting. It doesn't matter. You're doing something that is changing the life of someone out there. And when you understand that what your job is doing something personal to someone else, you understand your mission, you find your purpose, and in life you need purpose for everything. And in this event, especially in catastrophic events, you need purpose, and you need to understand that you're there for a reason, and it's an opportunity to make a difference. And in this case, it's saving lives.
You had more to say even after the storm to get people back on their feet. How did things change after the storm with the way you spoke to people?
You know, I don't do much weather anymore. I do my weather report every day, but now I'm focused on stories. People need to tell them their stories. It doesn't matter where you go, someone will tell you their story. People will cry with you. And you know what? Something that happened here today, people that had families in Puerto Rico, they just approached and they were all crying. I was crying. They were all crying because we share the same pain, And it doesn't matter where you go in Puerto Rico, people are in pain. They are hurt. And you say, well, if you had, like I heard someone say, well, if you had better housing and you have better infrastructure and you have better blah, 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 then it wouldn't have been that bad. Well, you know what? One thing I've learned in all of this, that you have to respect the dignity of each person. That if that person lives in a very humble home and they lost everything and they don't want to leave, and even after having a hurricane category 4 or 5 going through their house, they don't want to leave, you know what? Stay. Why should I force you to leave if you don't want to leave? Is that you have to respect their dignity. If even in Utuado, which is the municipality which had the most landslides and all the houses are like hanging in there, I don't know how, and you tell them, but you have to leave, you're not living in a safe house. Well, if I survived this hurricane, nothing else is going to survive. What am I going to tell her? Go to where? Go to a shelter. To do what? To get what services? So you have to respect them. You tell them it's not safe. It's your choice. You do whatever you have to do. That's it. Because on the others, unless they have families that could have them for months, they're better off in their house. So to me, the most important lesson I've learned through the entire Hurricane Maria is that I have to respect dignity. It's not that I have to be a better meteorologist. It's not that I have to be a better forecaster. It's not that I have to be there for them. All of this is important, but I have to respect their dignity.
Do you think coming into the next hurricane season, based on what you've gone through, how you've had to live for all these months without power, the people will listen because they get it, but will there be things that you put together as a broadcaster that you might put on other social media channels that people outside Puerto Rico can appreciate?
Yeah, you just have to look at us. Of course, there's a difference. Because in Florida, even if it happens in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi,
True.
Tennessee, they're right there. And somehow you're going to get the relief you need. But That doesn't happen in Puerto Rico because
You're surrounded by water.
you're surrounded by water. And therefore, getting the relief that is going to be needed then means that we have to evaluate our storage capabilities for these catastrophic events. In Puerto Rico, there was a catastrophic plan. I don't know what happened exactly. There were issues between the local, the federal, and the state government on how this worked. I still don't understand it, but the storage capabilities in Puerto Rico have to change. Either there have to be local, regional, state. I don't know. FEMA had storage. They had problems with their storage space. They didn't have enough for a catastrophic space. So we were not ready for a catastrophic hurricane. So these are the consequences.
I thought it was really interesting that she said you have to take care of yourself first, that you can't take care of other people before you take care of yourself. And that's a really good message for disaster, but it also is a good, not only a good message for emergency managers and anyone who's going to be a first responder, or someone who has to, as she said, sleep 3 days straight at the office. But you also, you could see that as a good message, or a good lesson in a lot of ways, just in terms of how we deal in everyday life with these kinds of stresses, that you have to take care of yourself first. And so I thought that was interesting that she brought that up, because she's very well prepared, right? She has all this water at home. She has all this preparation. She got her filters for her generator, after Irma, knowing that Maria was coming, and she just was very on top of that.
She had to be. She knew what was coming, and she knew what was going to be required of her to get people to prepare. And she was doing it well ahead of Maria, but at the same time, she was getting herself totally prepared so that she could basically sign off from the family and focus on being on air and talking to the people of Puerto Rico. And so she did everything she could ahead of time to get that preparation done so she wouldn't have to deal with it later. And, she did a lot of she had all the house retrofitted years ago. She had everything in place. She had to get the filters for the generators, things like that. She had to get the water. They had a lot of stuff left over from Irma, so they're in pretty good shape. But she took care of all the rest of the tasks so that she could focus.
She showed the Puerto Rican people, the people even outside of the island, what it is to be human and be on air. I think that as a broadcast meteorologist, you don't get these events too often, luckily. And an everyday weather segment just puts you out there in a different light. They critique you for, especially being a woman, the hair, the makeup, the dress. If you're repeating a dress, if your makeup it's not in sync today, if your hair is a little bit messy. And during these events, I've noticed that people, there are less critics out there. And Ada even mentioned it in the interview, like she did not care if there was makeup or not. I mean, there comes to a point that you do not care if you're wearing your best dress. You do not care if you have makeup on, if your hair's messy or not. I've personally come on air without makeup. If there's a tornado warning, I do not care. I mean, it's not about all glam on TV. And I think Ada really showed that in all of her speeches in the AMS 2018, but also, seeing her coverage on social media, on the website, on the TV station that she works for. She's very, very dedicated to all Puerto Ricans in the island and even outside of the island.
So that's the episode. We hope you enjoyed our interview with the one and only Ada Monzón.
For Irene, Jeff, and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on The Air.
Happy weather.